Hey friends, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Elizabeth and this is the More Intuitive Me. I'm a tarot reader and your companion on the path of self-discovery. Let's flip some cards and dive into the magic. Today we're going to recap the month of November. I'm going to start with journals. This here is my current everyday journal, except that I have kind of been neglecting this journal. I haven't been using it as much because the journaling that I am doing is going into my year of the Hermit journal. So this journal is one that I started, let me see, look at that, fall of 2024. And we're darn near the end here. So I don't have very much left. More than likely, I'll be able to wrap up this journal at the end of the year and then start a new journal in January. But let me show you the journal that I have been working in, and that is Year of the Hermit. So this was something that I received as a gift last year, and it had a journal prompt for every single day of the year because this year was the year of the Hermit. And I found this to be really valuable. I really enjoyed this exercise, but I'm gonna say that I'm very much looking forward to completing this book because I miss my journal, and this has been great. I've been able to capture a lot of information. I've inserted a ton of pictures and stickers and pages. And so all of that is a lot of fun. It's a great memory, but I do miss my regular journal. So since we're at the end of November, I thought that we could do the final reading together. So here is the tarot spread for November. And we're going to be pulling a couple of cards, the truth that I seek and the truth that I find. And so just a quick recap here. November was all about the journey. This section of the book is really talking about those moments when we're on this path of the Hermit that are filled with uncomfortable situations, maybe frustration, confusion, or even loneliness. And so it was very interesting getting into these prompts. And for November, I found myself working on them in chunks, actually. So for this journal, I have been using my Tarot of Mystical Moments. So I'm going to pull her out. This is my soul deck, and I absolutely love this deck. Something that I really enjoyed about this journal was having an excuse to use my favorite deck, my soul deck, every single day for a year. That was really cool. Now, of course, there were times that I missed or questions that I just, had to skip for one reason or the other, but I have to say this is the first time that I use a deck like this for a whole entire year. So I'm going to give the deck a shuffle, and we're pulling two cards. Let's see. So Spirit, nice deep breath. We're pulling a card, the truth I seek. Two of Pentacles. And then the truth that I find. So I'm seeking the Two of Pentacles. There's that card about finding balance, not dropping the ball. The truth that I find. Nine of Swords. So very interesting. And this particular depiction of the card is incredible because it kind of speaks to that idea of eyes watching, always having eyes watching, and fear of judgment, um, of so many different things. So this is really, really interesting card pull for the month of November. I'll set this aside and get into this after the video. Let me show you some of the decks that I worked with this month. So this here is my Wandering Spirit Tarot. I love this deck. She's beautiful. And I used this actually in October, but I was having such a beautiful time with this deck that I decided to continue into November. And she's a lovely reader. She's very soft, and I have always enjoyed this deck. I feel like this deck is a deck that I like to use when I'm doing readings, kind of around the theme of the ego. Although I feel like this deck works for many things, and as always, I'm finding reversals in the deck, and I don't use reversals. But yeah, I really enjoyed working with this deck. And something that I did differently this time around was I paired this deck for the first time. I usually don't pair this particular deck, but I recently got in the Memento Mori, and I found that it was the perfect companion for this deck. So beautiful. It adds just a little bit of color, and I really like that. But look at how nicely these, coordinate. They're just so good. So I had a lot of fun using this deck. There's a couple of cards in here that are, after using, are not my favorite, and I'm thinking about maybe pulling those out, because every time I pull them out, it throws off my reading, and it's just two specific cards. So I might pull those out. But other than that, it's a great little deck. I love the size. I love the art and the color. I love the messages. The gilding on the edges is really awesome. It shuffles well, and it's been a great addition to the collection. So that is the Memento Mori. Another deck that carried over from last month was Nightmare Before Christmas. This deck is great. I'm sure you've all seen this one before. This is one of those decks I can't believe I haven't edged. But I really love this deck, and I found myself really connecting to this deck this time around and enjoying my time with it, enjoying the pips more than I ever had before, and it's been awesome. And as a matter of fact, even though like November is over, I'm thinking about like even leaving it out on the table for December as well, because why not? It is the Nightmare Before Christmas. So yeah, lots of fun with this deck. And I feel like this year I was really able to deepen my connection with the deck, the card, the meaning, the images. So yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas. These were new decks that I brought in, not new to the collection, but that I brought into the rotation. So this is my Cirque du Tarot. I love this deck so much. This deck is based off of, the idea of that performance style circus. There's a lot of theatrics in here. It really reminds me of my high school days and my time on the stage. And it's just so fun. Every time I read with it, I just have such a great time. It's a wonderful reader. I do feel like this deck lends itself to shadow work, and I'm totally fine with that. It's been a lot of fun. I've used her a lot in live readings, and also in shorts, and I don't know, just all the way around. I really love this deck, especially because a lot of the characters that are featured in the major arcana, um, show up in a lot of other places in the deck, not just the majors, but also in the minors. So here we have the 10 of Cups and there's the High Priestess. So it's just a super cool way to look at tarot. I always found this card to be so funny, the Emperor, and then here's the Fool down here mocking the Emperor. So I don't know, it's a fun deck. I love it, and I had a great time with this one. Now, uh, something that I like to do with this deck is pair it to this here, Soul Seeds Oracle. Let me move this aside and I'll show you here how beautiful these decks are together. And this here is by the same creator of Soul Trees Ascension. And I saw the deck. I thought it was beautiful. I felt like I needed to add it to my collection. And then I did. But then I discovered that a lot of the words were like difficult for me, right? They were a bit on the whimsical side, like frolic, I struggled with a lot of the words in here. So for the longest time, I put the deck away. But there were so many cards in here that were favorites for me that I couldn't part with the deck. Plus, my daughter absolutely loves this deck, so there's no way that she's ever gonna let me let it go. And then one day I was messing around and I put these two together. Actually, I take that back. I take that back. In a dream, my spirit team um, shared with me that I should put these decks together. And I was like, no, that's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. And so I forgot all about the dream. And then a few days after that, during live readings, I was using this deck and the dream popped back up into my mind. And so I pulled them out and they worked. And I think because this is, that I don't know, like theater, performance. There's a lot of like theatrics. It really lent itself well to these funky keywords. And then the colors were so great together. It just made sense. Like here, Hangman with Treasure. So I don't know. And I just love this, right? Because even if you think about, here's the Hangman being lowered into a fishbowl, right? And so they have to go deep. And then the idea of searching for buried treasure, you have to go deep as well. So I don't know. There were so many little like synchronicities with these two decks. They worked out really well, and I love them. So yeah, now they're pairs. I actually paired this one with Tarot Sweet Twilight when I had that one in my hands, and it worked really well for that one as well. So one day when I add that one into the collection, these will all kind of go together. But yeah, this is my Cirque du Tarot, and this here is my Soul Seeds. This is a deck that was out on my table in October, and I left it out for November as well. And it's because it seemed to work really nicely with a lot of my darker themed decks. And this little Oracle deck, I only have a small portion of it in my hands, but the whole deck is actually 160 cards because I ended up getting the double version, right? Like the two decks combined into one. But it's my Cemetery Oracle. I picked this up off of Make Playing Cards. I absolutely adore this deck. It works so well for so many different things. And I decided to just leave her out on the table because sometimes I need to pull this energy into my readings. So yeah, this deck has been out and about. It'll probably go away now in December as I start to swap decks. But yeah, always enjoy my time with my Cemetery Oracle. This one is my Akamara Tarot. This deck was generously gifted to me. It is an out of print indie deck, and I wanted to get into it. And so I use this as a daily card pull, and I would slowly work with the images. It's a little bit more on the pip side, very simple artwork and very beautiful. And actually, I was quite shocked that the readings with this deck were so deep and so on point, and the type of deck that brings tears to your eyes when you're using it. And it's just fantastic. Such an amazing reader. I have really, really enjoyed my time with the deck. There are a lot of words in here, in different languages actually, but a lot of words that of course that I know, but then a lot that I don't know. And so what I did was I would start to track the words that I didn't know into a document so that I could keep handy and learn the deck. And such a wonderful reader. I mean, such a wonderful, not just wonderful, powerful, powerful, powerful reader. So, definitely the type of deck that has a specific purpose. But yes, very deep reader, and the type of deck that brings a tear to your eye on more than one occasion. So that is my Akamara. This is a deck. This is Tarot of Haunted House. And I actually brought this into the collection just in time for October. But what I did was in October, I dedicated time for a study with this deck. And so what I did was I took the entire little white book, which I know it sounds like a lot, but it's not, because it's a Los Scarabeo deck and there's just a few pages. So I put the whole thing into the computer in digital form. And then I went through all the cards and I put my own personal observations under each of the cards. And then the creator for this deck created a video series. And so I watched the 5 videos that she created for this deck, and I jotted down all of the little nuggets that she shared throughout the time that she was going through the cards. I added all of that, and then I took all of that and I created a guidebook, my own little guidebook. There are certain areas where I've kind of gone a little bit of like my own way just to kind of make heads or tails out of the story and the cards and the art. And I have to tell you, this was one of the best ways I could have thought of to to get to know this deck and to bond with it. Instantly using it to read this month was just instantaneous. I loved it. It read well. I love the stories, and because I'd been working on the guidebook for it, then I found myself even closer to the cards and to the stories. And it was just so much fun. I really enjoyed working with this deck. And so I was able to turn the itty bitty, I don't know, 5 or 6 page guidebook from the Los Scarabeo deck and turn it into, a 20 plus page document that I'm gonna love and enjoy working with. So yeah, that was my time and my experience with Tarot of Haunted House. Other decks that I have been experimenting with, Guide of the Hidden Realms. I use this actually several times this month, and I just kind of left it out on my reading table. But this is such an awesome deck. I feel like it may have been over at Mystic Man's channel where I first saw this. I can't remember if it was her or one other place. Um, Memory is escaping me right now, but I picked it up. I took a chance and I instantly loved it. So I use it for readings. It's amazing. I also use it every couple of weeks when I go over to Truthwave as a guest reader, and it was very well received there. So this is my Guide of the Hidden Realms, my one and only Colette Baron Reed deck. The other deck that I pulled out for readings at Truthwave was Wisdom of the Sacred Oracle. I love this deck and I hadn't used it in a little while. and I was missing it. So I used this deck, and it's gorgeous. This is by Judy Lanfredi. The artwork is stunning, just absolutely stunning. And I used this actually last night, and I was thinking to myself, like, I feel like this is the kind of deck or the kind of art that you could, in essence, almost scry with. If you sit and look at these images for long enough, you are going to see things that you never noticed before. So this deck is just awesome. It doesn't disappoint. I love the keywords. The cardstock is amazing. The artwork is beautiful, as well as the colorway. I love the gilded edges. There's a good amount of cards in this deck, and it's just special. This deck is just really, really special, and it goes so well with so many of my decks. So yeah, this is my Wisdom of the Sacred Oracle. This here is something, I'll call it a project, right? A deck that I worked on for a very long time. And for the longest time, I was really excited about putting this together. This is inspired by my love of crossword puzzles, and I actually used the Chicken Soup of the Soul for the Soul crossword puzzle book. And what I did was I took out um, the puzzle, right, the actual puzzle, and I got rid of the word sheet, and I went through each page and I found my very own word. And so, in essence, this process, I would say I probably spent a good 30 to 45 minutes with every single crossword. And when you do stuff like that, it absorbs your energy. And obviously this is crossword puzzle paper, kind of like newspaper. So I decided that I wanted to laminate it, but I remember when my friend Bill created a similar deck. Instead, he used those lottery tickets to create his, and he says that he activated the deck on the back. And so what I did was I took a deck that I had and loved but barely used, and I took all my favorite cards and I put it on the back side. So if you see, this is Work Your Light. I took my favorite cards and I put it on the back. And I played around with this deck during, I want to say it was during open panel, and we had a lot of fun with it. And I realized, when I was first working on this deck, I uh, received a little bit of feedback. Oh, that's not going to work. You can't do that. Why would you, pluck out all of the words in anticipation? And that kind of killed my love for the project. But I set it aside. I completed it and I set it aside. And I decided, you know what? It's my deck. It was my intention. It's my energy, and it works for what I wanted. So this, of course, it doesn't have a name, but it's a lot of fun to work with. And this was my first experience ever with creating, something like this. And I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I saw it through, even though it wasn't well received originally. Um, I like it, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Last deck I will show you is this here, Hero's Journey. I use this for dream work, and I really love this deck. First of all, I love this artwork. So this is by Rasuli. Or sorry, the deck is by Kelly Sullivan Walden. The artwork is by Rasuli, and Rasuli has so many beautiful, beautiful decks out. I have this card out because it was the last card that I pulled, and I'm still working with this card, right? And you can see here it says, "In the Castle of Dreams." And then the message is, "Become altered by the color of your dreams." But when you read the guidebook, it almost like describes this here as like a drawbridge. And when you're dreaming, the drawbridge is open and therefore you can access the messages and the symbols from your dreams. But that moment that you wake up, it's like the drawbridge closes and you lose that connection that you had, which is so, so true. And so I'm kind of working with this energy still, which is why I haven't put it away, but I'll show you some of the other cards because it's just stunning. I have the glossy version of this deck, and I know for a while, I want to say this is Blue Angel. Yeah, this is Blue Angel, and I know that they're, maybe not all the decks, but I know that they're going through and making matte versions of a lot of the decks. So some of my recent Blue Angel decks are matte, but this one I have in the glossy version, and I actually like that better. Even though, sometimes there's a bit of a glare, it's not so bad in this lighting, but I actually enjoy it. And the art is just beautiful. I went back and forth. There was a couple other ones. Um, I want to say his art was used in those Rumi decks as well. And then the other one, Sufi Wisdom or Hafiz, I can't remember the names. But anyways, after going through all of the decks, this is the one that I ended up going with. And I'm not going to lie, this was definitely one of those Lisa Pepez made me do it decks, but it happened to be one that I actually really, really enjoyed and ended up keeping along the way. A lot of times when you do these, look at these videos and then, you pick up decks because of the other person's love for the deck. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. And so this happens to be a situation where it did. Like everything just worked out really well. And I love the deck. I love the write-ups. And for example, this card over here, that was card number 42. So if you go into the book, it gives you a little quote here. So here's one from Emily Bronte. It gives you the message, the dream symbol, which is color. And then at the end, it gives you a mantra. I use my entire palette and paint with broad strokes as I participate vividly in life. I don't know, it's just so beautiful. I really love how the book is written, and I enjoy this deck a lot. So this is what I've been using for my dream work in the month of November. In terms of new things coming in, I received this month my decks from Desiree from the deck swap that we did a couple of months ago. And so I got those decks back, and she sent me a little gift, and I just wanted to show it real quick. It's just the sweetest thing ever. Look how beautiful this little container is. I haven't even put it away. I just keep it at my desk exactly as it is. She says that she gets yogurt in here. I just think this is the coolest thing ever. And in here, she included this soap, which smells amazing. I wish that, we had smell-o-vision and you could smell it. I adore it. My daughter was like, oh, that is not for me, but I liked it. And she included this gorgeous little piece, which it's funny because I saw this piece on the turtle shell and I was like, oh, I'm getting that. And this is agate, and I forgot what this was. I forgot what this was, but anywho, I saw it and I fell in love with it, and I wrote to Turtle Shell and I was like, hey, can I claim that piece? And she's like, well, I'm sorry, it's sold. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's sold? And she's like, I'm sorry. I was like, but I literally, like, your live just ended and I just, I just, I don't understand. She's like, I'm sorry. And I was like, okay, well, sure enough, turned out her and Desiree were in cahoots. Desiree picked it up and sent it to me, and it's just so beautiful. I'm excited to have it and to wear it. I feel like the colors are just so pretty. It kind of reminds me of moss agate in a way. But yeah, super cool. And I haven't even like done anything at all to it. Usually when I get these pieces, I, take some time to cleanse them energetically. But right now I've just been kind of keeping it in its cute little container. Thank you, Desiree. I do want to share a couple of new decks to the collection. And that is going to be the Bohemian Gothic Tarot. And you might be wondering, well, don't you already have that deck? And the answer is yes. Yes, I do. I do have this deck. I have this one here, the fourth edition, which was the most recent version that has, that cold foil that makes me, crazy. But I loved using this deck this year more than ever. And so I was keeping an eye to see if I could find a previous version of this deck, and I did. I did. So I'm going to put that here. And I was able to find the third edition. Now, you can see the card backs are different. There is the title card. It's still in order because I'm still like cleansing it, but the artwork, you can see everything better. And also I noticed that the artwork is different in this deck. It's almost like a little bit spookier in some of the cards. So I love it. I love it. This edition had the two lovers cards, which mine did not. So I'm happy to have this one. And I did notice didn't do a side by side because there's so many. But this hermit card is different than mine. There's a lot of cards in here that are different, and I just really like it. Like the death card is different. So I'm happy. I'm happy that I got it, and I found it for, I don't know, like it was expensive, of course, but it was still um reasonable for an out of print indie deck. Usually you will see these for $300-400. I was able to pick it up under two, and I was thrilled. I was thrilled. And so the deck itself was in great condition. The box was a little banged up, but when I purchased my copy, I bought the bag, and the deck came with the box. So what I plan to do is here's the title card. Let me pull that out and put that there. I plan to keep the third edition in the box. So that is really more of a collector's piece, although I would totally read with both of these decks because I feel like they have a different vibe. So yeah, new to my collection, Bohemian Gothic Tarot, third edition. Some of you may recall when I did the deck swap with Desiree, one of the decks that she sent me was the Lucid Minds Tarot, and I absolutely fell in love with the deck. And so I decided that I was going to order it and add it to the collection. And then when I got it in the middle of filming the live walkthrough, I discovered that the art was different. The coloring in the deck was different. The cardstock was different. It felt like a different deck. It felt like a different energy, and I was completely crushed and devastated. And I wrote to everybody. I wrote to Tarot Stack, which is where I purchased the deck, and they were like, And then the lovely Rachel recommended trying to reach out directly to the creator, which is what I did. I tracked her down on Etsy. I sent her a message and I explained what had happened. And what she shared was that, as a small business owner that produces decks, she often has to work with different publishers, and that sometimes the artwork looks different because she's constantly sourcing different places that can provide the deck at reasonable costs. And I did understand that, but that didn't change my disappointment with this deck. And so, at the risk of sounding like a lunatic, I asked her if there was any chance in the world that she might have a random earlier printing of the deck laying around. I said, I'm willing to pay for it again. I'm willing to pay the shipping because she's in the UK. I'm willing to pay the shipping. I'm willing to pay the tariffs. I'm willing to buy the deck again. But do you happen to have such a deck? And long story short, she said yes. So she sent me this version. Now, I believe that this may have been a prototype. She told me there were a couple of cards, the Fool and the Magician, that had a little bit of a defect. But other than that, I was fine to, to keep the deck. She's like, I can't charge you for it because it is, damaged, but you can have the deck if you pay for the shipping, which is exactly what I did. I said, yes, absolutely. Tell me when, tell me where, tell me how much, tell me, tell me what I need to do. And so I received it this month, and I'm just like, oh, so happy. I feel like this might be a prototype because this has that original cardstock that I loved, but it does not have the back of the cards on the other version. I'll show you. The other version, it had like a little, I forget what you call these things, but anyways, you would scan this and it would take you to that page in the guidebook. This doesn't have that, but I know the Kickstarter version had it. So I think this may have been a prototype, and she had it laying around and she said, you know what, I'll just send it to her. And I just couldn't be more grateful because it is a beauty. Like now I feel like, I mean, look at that. Even here, that there's not, the reason that I fell in love with this deck was because of the blues, right? But even here, you can see the difference in the color. It's stunning. This cardstock is better. Like, I just love everything about it. So I'm thrilled to be able to have this in the collection. I don't care one bit about not having the little label on the back, because when I purchased this deck, I purchased the expanded guidebook. So I have the expanded guidebook, and I'm happy to use that. But yeah, this is my new Lucid Minds Tarot, a deck that I wanted so badly, and it finally worked out for me. Last deck that came in is this one right here. This is actually a gift from Desiree. This is the Paper Cut Tarot by, I don't even know, Max Cott. But yeah, it's still brand new in the packaging. I think somehow she ended up with 2 copies of the deck, and I haven't opened it or gone through it. These are the card backs because I'm planning on going through the deck, like perhaps with the RWS, and maybe I'll film that. But yeah, this is a newer deck to my collection, and it's, knowing Desiree, it's going to be unique, it's going to be different, it's going to be interesting. So I'm excited because, different readers have different aesthetics. And I noticed that Desiree and I, we get along like peas in a pod, but our deck choices or our deck styles are very, very different. And so it's fun. Like, doing the deck swap experiment with her was so amazing. I was able to use a lot of decks that I would never have thought of or considered prior to this. And I think the same for her. She ended up falling in love with one of my decks. And and so we worked out, how we were gonna handle that. But yeah, it was a super fun experience and a great way to use other decks that are outside of your comfort zone, or decks that you would normally have said, no, not really, it's not my thing, it's not my style. So I'm excited about going through this. Outside of that, I would say that the next big thing that I did in November that will trickle over into December is the hashtag bling your decks. That's been a lot of fun. I put a lot of heart into that, and it's a way to combine my love for jewelry, my love for tarot, and I released that video, and hopefully in the month of December, we'll see some video responses to it. I'm looking forward to it. It was a lot of fun. And I always wanted to do it. It's nerve wracking though, I have to say that. but, but yeah, I put it out there and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that was my month. Um, November was difficult for me. November was a hard month. There were a lot of emotions, a lot of things that came up, a lot of uncertainties, and a lot of things that I'm still working through personally. But, you know, we made it. We made it to the end, and now we're stepping into the month of December. I'm super excited for that. And, as always, looking forward to the blessings that are on their way. As always, feel free to leave your comments below. I always look forward to reading those and engaging with you all. That's the whole point of building this community, is to be able to have other people to engage and interact with. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.